Hey everyone, this one's self-explanatory. You could see right beneath me. 49ers fans, stop freaking out over Trey Sermon and Brandon Aiyuk. I understand that people are emotionally attached to their fantasy teams. I understand that there's more money than ever attached to fantasy teams, so maybe that's why there's so much unrest over this. And I also understand that we just ended the longest offseason ever that set people into certain types of moods. So they got extra touchy around week one, and NFL fans always get really emotional around week one. But guys, you are reading way too far into the Trey Sermon and Brandon Aiyuk situations. Now, to catch up those people who aren't fully in tune with what's going on, Trey Sermon, the 49ers rookie running back, who they picked in the third round this past April, was inactive during week one as the 49ers played the Lions. And Brandon Aiyuk saw a reduced role from what he saw last year, but he still was in there for something like 25 snaps over the course of the game. And everybody seems to think that both of these players are in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse and that they're progressing slower than they should be. And it's generally time to freak out. And no, it's not. I'll go through this one player at a time. Why don't we talk about Brandon Aiyuk first? He was dealing with a hamstring strain over the past 10 days that caused him to miss practice leading up to the season opener. I mean, this is just about putting two and two together. And the last time I checked, two plus two equals four. When a player has a hamstring injury, he's probably going to have a reduced role at practice, which is the case with Brandon Aiyuk. And if there's a reduced role in practice, he's probably going to have a reduced role in a game. In this case, it's even further complicated by the fact that the 49ers have a newcomer at receiver that's been very impressive and healthy throughout all camp in Trent Sherfield. So basically, Kyle Shanahan had Brandon Aiyuk and Trent Sherfield split the reps during their game against the Lions. But it's not like Aiyuk was relegated to the bench. He was just splitting the reps with Trent Sherfield. Yes, there is an element of Kyle Shanahan wanting more out of Brandon Aiyuk. And we know this because Kyle Shanahan is famously hard on all his receivers. In fact, Kyle played receiver at Texas, so that seems to be his baby, that position. He always has a little bit of an extra thing there as far as attention goes for his receivers. And I mean, this has been covered in depth, but obviously Dante Pettis is the one 49ers flame out after being picked in the second round. But there is no indication right now that Brandon Aiyuk is following the same path as Dante Pettis. In fact, Aiyuk came into camp in great shape, 10 pounds heavier than last year, to the point where the 49ers felt comfortable increasing his planned workload for the season to include punt returns. And you saw Brandon Aiyuk in on a couple punt returns against the Lions on Sunday. That is still very much in the 49ers' plans. If he wasn't some kind of doghouse, they wouldn't have given him a job that Aiyuk himself stated that he wanted to win, and that's that punt return job at the start of training camp. And they also wouldn't have allowed him to split reps with Trent Sherfield. They just would have straight up benched Brandon Aiyuk in this game. So it's not a doghouse situation. It's a case where the progress that Aiyuk showed during training camp at the start of it was slowed by that hamstring strain, and there was also a couple drops mixed in. Right, he had the drop of Trey Lance's fastball to open up the game against the Chiefs, and he had the drop of the Jimmy Garoppolo third down throw that was high, but Kyle Shanahan said Aiyuk should have gotten it against the Chargers. When you combine all those things with the fact that Trent Sherfield had a great camp, you head into week one, and Kyle Shanahan's obviously going to make a game plan that more heavily features Trent Sherfield than initially anticipated. Now, the season is extremely long. It's now 17 games long, not just 16 games long. And trust me, this is going to have ebbs and flows. It's a marathon, and it's not a sprint. And over those ebbs and flows, over mile 13, mile 14, mile 20 of the marathon, there are going to be games where Brandon Aiyuk is the 49ers' number one receiver. He's that talented. He'll earn that type of role. The hamstring will heal. I mean, this is all health permitting. But if things go as planned, you're going to have Deebo Samuel taking over some games, just as he did on Sunday with 9 catches for 187 yards. And you'll have Brandon Aiyuk taking over some games, just as he did last season for the 49ers. So stop creating drama. Stop subscribing to drama that people try to create on social media. This is a long NFL season, and you have to keep an even keel if you're going to understand anything that the 49ers are doing. And with Brandon Aiyuk, they're working him back on a pitch count from a health issue, from a hamstring strain. Trey Sermon's absence is not health related, so I see why people think that the extra mystery here might lead to some conspiracy theories. Well, the 49ers did draft Trey Sermon in the third round, and yes, he was near the top of the running back pecking order throughout training camp. I mean, we watched every practice. We saw that Trey Sermon was lining up a lot with the ones, and we figured that he would be in that tenderizer role with Raheem Mostert being the speedster in the 49ers backfield. And by the tenderizer role, I mean the Tevin Coleman role, the guy that gets a lot of starts, gets a lot of those first down carries. And then Raheem Mostert, according to the plan, would step in and really burn some defenses that were a bit more stretched out with his speed. However, there were also complications toward the end of 49ers training camp, and complications the 49ers didn't mind seeing. One of them was the rise of Elijah Mitchell, sixth round pick who runs a whole hell of a lot like Raheem Mostert. We saw that burst, the 4.3 speed he recorded at the combine during his excellent performance as the 49ers beat the Lions. In fact, on the play that Jimmy Garoppolo audibled into that pitch, right? You could have mistook Elijah Mitchell for Raheem Mostert because of the way that he ran. One cut runner to the outside, that fits Shanahan's scheme really well. We don't know the full story of everything that goes on behind the scenes. A lot of times you have to wait until the book comes out for some of this stuff following a championship run. So assuming the 49ers win the Super Bowl, I write the book, maybe we find out what happened to Trey Sermon before week 1. But if I want to boil this down into simplistic terms, Kyle Shanahan is not running a positional competition at training camp that will have permanent results for all 17 weeks of the regular season and the postseason. Kyle Shanahan is running a competition at all times, starting in training camp, that will then be applied to specific game plans throughout the course of the year. So when the 49ers are playing the Lions, they're going to be focusing on different matchups and different personnel edges than when they're playing the Eagles the following week, and then when they're playing the Seahawks a few weeks after that. There is no one-size-fits-all roster, which is why you have a fluid practice squad, a fluid 46-man roster, which is now a 48-man roster. And I can say generally, in the case of Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell and JaMychal Hasty, that Shanahan is viewing what they've done in training camp, what they've done in the week before the game, he's taking everything cumulatively and he's applying it specifically to the Detroit game plan, to the Detroit defense. And Shanahan determined through whatever happened that Elijah Mitchell, that Raheem Mostert, and that JaMychal Hasty were his 3 running backs that best won the competition and fit the Detroit game plan. Now, that can completely change with the Eagles. That can completely change moving forward. And guess what? It already automatically will change with Trey Sermon being one of the 3 active running backs for the 49ers and Eagles, because Raheem Mostert's now hurt for at least 8 weeks. Has a chip in the cartilage of his knee. It's going to require scope. So now you're down to only 3 running backs for the 49ers on the whole roster, and you're going to have to make all 3 of them active. So look, lo and behold, Trey Sermon, after all the freak out, is going to be active in week 2. We're going to get to see what he has. We're going to get to see what Trey Sermon has, health permitting, for 16 more weeks of this regular season. So stop worrying so much about week 1. So much could have happened behind the scenes, and so much of it was so nuanced that you're going to drive yourself crazy thinking about all this stuff, whether it be a disciplinary issue. I mean, Kendrick Bourne showed up late to a team meeting his rookie season, and Shanahan made him inactive for 6 weeks to teach him a lesson. Worked out for Kendrick Bourne. He ended up making some money for the 49ers, from the 49ers, and now with the New England Patriots. Went from an undrafted free agent to a reliable veteran in the NFL. Not saying that's what happened with Trey Sermon, but I'm saying that you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Oftentimes these stories are told later. And hey, the next chapter of this story is coming up on Sunday when Sermon will be active against the Eagles. So again, the NFL, this is a big picture season. If you do not learn how to look at stuff in the big picture, you will get everything wrong. You're wrongly predicted the 49ers were going to draft at the quarterback position. You wrongly predict who they're going to start at quarterback. It ended up being Jimmy Garoppolo, and that was obvious through the big picture. And you'll end up obsessing over details that simply don't matter right now, like Brandon Aiyuk and Trey Sermon's week 1 statuses. You have to view this in the big lens, and the big lens says that they're both going to play moving forward. And if they stay healthy, we're going to hear a lot from both Aiyuk and Sermon. All right, everybody have a great day and a great night. Take care.